I want to talk about the continued destruction of churches in France and the hypocrisy of the liberal progressive elites. Imagine for a second that you saw in the newspaper that thousands of mosques in Britain had been targeted for vandalism, where they had been firebombed or graffitied or had their windows smashed in a clear campaign of hatred. If that happened, do you think the British media would talk about it? Yes, they would.
All the time.
And there would be lectures going on about the need to protect the Muslim community from harassment. So why is the Chancellor of Germany, the President of France and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom silent about the systematic targeting of churches in France? I read, ladies and gentlemen.
Read it.
The leading curator of New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art, Keith Christiansen, was criticised for posting on Instagram a painting of Alexandre Lenoir's saving France's monument from the ravages of the French Revolution. Christiansen wrote, Alexandre Lenoir, battling the revolutionary zealots bent on destroying the royal tombs in St. Denis Church. How many great works of art have been lost to the desire to rid ourselves of a past of which we don't approve. And how grateful we are to people like Lenoir who realise their value, both artistical and historical, extended beyond a defining monument of social and political upheaval and change. Christiansen was criticising the current removal and desecration of historical monuments. He could not have known that a few weeks later another French cathedral would be vandalised and an ancient organ which had survived Lenoir's revolutionary zealots destroyed by a blaze. The fire at the Cathedral of St. Peter and St. Paul of Nantes is believed to have been started deliberately. It was only a year ago that a massive blaze nearly totally gutted the Cathedral of Notre Dame de Paris. After that, the historic church of St. Sulpice in Paris caught fire, as well as the Basilica of St. Denis. The fire in Nantes Cathedral after Notre Dame de Paris should make our elites reflect on the great disorder and the great change, the de-civilization that is underway. Philippe de Villiers, the author and former French minister, commentated, in France there is a low-noise destruction of the Christian roots, said the philosopher Michel Onfray. There are about 1 or 2 anti-Christian acts a day. A day! And it takes a burning cathedral to start talking about it. Ladies and gentlemen, to my Christian brothers and sisters, you are fools if you believe that the church does not have real enemies that seek our destruction. There are real enemies targeting Christian communities with acts of violence, vandalism, robbery, harassment and theft. And the state is doing nothing. The French state is doing nothing to protect the Christian monuments of France or to protect the heritage of the Christian community in France. Why? Because the liberal elites who govern France are unwilling to see who is at the root of the problem. Islamist militants are targeting the French community in France. Such systematic daily occurrences of attacks against churches matches the pattern that Christians experience across the Islamic world. And France has a high proportion of radicalized Muslims because its secular ideology puts blindfolds over the eyes of the authorities, and they cannot see an ideological problem that they must face. And Christians are suffering because of it. Brothers and sisters, as we have seen in this park, the state and its thugs do not protect Christians when they are harassed in this park.
Nothing.
They don't do anything to help Christians.
Nothing at all, Lord.
So what must we Christians do?
Tela Boxila.
He's right.
What did he say?
Love thy enemy.
Yeah,
That
God.
is what we Christians must do.
That's right, Toad.
But what he doesn't know is that Christ commanded you to love and serve one another.
That's right, Toad.
And so when Christians are being persecuted anywhere in the world, Christians around the world must organize to help them.
Correct, Toad.
And where Christians are suffering in any country, the Christians of that country must organize to help them. Ladies and gentlemen, the Jewish community in Golders Green, and I'm going to stop projecting my voice, so if you want to hear me and you can't hear me, move in.
Alright, cool.
The Jewish community in Golders Green has organized for itself a private security service. That patrols the Jewish community. If you start trouble in the Jewish community, it's more likely that their private security group will be on the scene faster than the police. The police know about it, and the police work with them. Christians must organize in such a way that we protect our own community. How can we do that? We do that by moving into the same areas geographically, by setting up our own security firms, by employing Christians to man those security firms, by patrolling Christian communities and protecting Christian churches. If the state will abscond on its responsibilities, O Christians of France, then you must do it yourselves. And the reality is, you're too spread out to do that successfully. You've all got to move into the same region of France and then organize yourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, the reality is that Christians are blindfolded into thinking that the state will protect them. Well, we have 5 years worth of documentation in this park that the state can't protect us.
Nothing.
So why do you think they're going to protect you?
That's a good question.
We have attacks against churches in East London that are not being talked about.
Nothing.
We have harassment of Christian evangelists in East London that are not being talked about. And on Edgware Road. You are fools to believe that the police will protect you. As Christians, rather, and I speak directly to all of you Christians who do martial arts or physical training or boxing or any kind of activity of defence.
Okay.
Stop worrying about getting people into your church and start instead getting the men of your church into the gym, getting the men of your church into the boxing ring, getting the men of your church into the dojo, getting the men of your church into the gym. Because until we cultivate a community that can protect itself, we will always be the victims.
All the time, Mo.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
no one is helping the Christians of Nigeria. It is up to you as the Christians of the world to help the Christians of Nigeria. It is up to the Nigerian Christians to organise themselves, to protect themselves against Boko Haram.
That's right, Toe.
Because the state is not doing so.
Nothing.
It is up to the Christians of Lebanon to organise themselves, to protect themselves from Hamas. Because the state is not doing so.
Nothing. Nothing.
Christians,
Yeah.
your leaders are visionless cowards. A leader that cannot organise his community to look after his own sheep is no leader at all.
No, exactly.
He is just a grifter taking your money while leaving you to the wolves.
Ooh.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why, as Christians, we need to organise, even if our bishops say no, don't.
Right, Toe.
Because our bishops are cowardly leaders who allow Christians to be harassed, who allow churches to be vandalised, who are silent about the persecution of our brethren around the world.
Yeah, they are.
Take the mantle of responsibility upon your own shoulders.
Correct, Toe.
Rise to the challenge that Christ has presented to you.
That's right.
Christ has called you to love and serve your brothers and sisters. How can it be love to be silent when the Christians of France are being harassed, when the Christians of Nigeria are being murdered, when the Christians of Lebanon are suffering, when the Christians of Palestine are suffering, when the Christians of Pakistan are suffering, when the Christians of Burma are suffering, and all your pastor wants you to think about is about what you do for his little fellowship.
Boo.
Well, surprise, my brothers and sisters, the body of Christ is bigger than the congregation that you go to on a Sunday.
Right.
And your responsibility as Christians is to your brothers and sisters first. So how do we reconcile loving our brothers and sisters with loving our enemies?
Tell us, Bobsila.
The answer is not hard when you think about it.
Okay.
Imagine
Drink water.
you walk into your house and you see your mother or someone else that you love dearly being assaulted by a man with a crowbar.
Okay.
What are you going to do?
Pray.
Stand there and pray? Grow up, you child. What you should do, I'll come to you later. What you should do
Tell us.
is you should defend the one that you love and disempower the one that is attacking them.
Okay.
And then, when they are no longer a threat, because you've knocked them unconscious, then you love them by making sure that they don't choke on their own tongue, by calling the ambulance for them, by covering them up with a blanket. That's how you reconcile loving your brothers and sisters with loving your enemies.
Okay.
There must be a response to the burning of churches in France. And I say to you, French Christians, if it won't come from the Republic, let it come from the church.
Right, Toe.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Any questions?
Okay.
What?
So,
What was the question?
the question is, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
who represents the Christians in all of Europe? All the Christians.
Okay.
The fact of the matter is that institutionally,
Yeah.
there is no single representation. Because Christians are divided by historical sects. And so at the time when we most need to unite, our leaders do not think together collectively. The mantle of responsibility, to quote Halo, for those of you that are going to mention it in the comment section, is on you who are listening to my voice. Use what skills and abilities you have, what resources you have to organize yourselves to represent the Christian community. Most Christians at the ground level don't care about denominational differences.
That's right.
Yes, there are some sectarian disciples of Satan who think that attacking other Christians is the most important thing. And they take after their father, the devil, to do so. But Christians are united in their discipleship in the Lord Jesus Christ. And we have a responsibility to one another. And when a problem is too big for you to solve as an individual, you go to your fellowship and get more people to help address it. But if it's too big for your fellowship to deal with as a group, you get a group of fellowships together to deal with it. And if that group is not big enough, you escalate and escalate and escalate until you're throwing enough bodies at the problem to resolve the problem. The persecution of the Christians of Nigeria requires an international response by the church. And that means that our grifting pastors and our pension collecting bishops need to take their thumbs out of their stop talking about the importance of LGBTQ affirming liturgies and transgender celebrations and actually bother to hold a synod about what the church can do to help persecuted Christians.
That's right.
And it is your responsibility to challenge your pastors to get out of their bunkers and work with other Christians to organize the Christian community to help our persecuted brethren. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Any other questions?
Give someone else a chance to ask a question.
Any other
if no one asks, I'll come back to you. Any other questions? Going once.
Any other questions?
Going twice. Okay, sister, what's your next question? Come in, move in, guys. Move in, so I don't have to shout. Move in. Yeah.
It's good, it's great. But there is this that you mentioned about the bishops, which I call it Vatican, which is where they all, the committee is there and take the decisions, which is meant for all the Catholic
What was?
churches.
Yeah, go on.
The question is, if they are not doing nothing, why are they still there?
Well, that's a great question.
Repeat the question, Wasila, just
The
in case.
reality is, ladies and gentlemen, as Christians, we have to recognize that there are many bishops that shouldn't be bishops. Both Benedict and John and others, Benedict, I forget which is the other bishop, have talked about the fact that the Vatican has been taken over by a gay mafia, that it operates, a gay cabal that operates inside the Vatican. And many in the Church of England who are bishops are the same. Gay militants using the institution of the church to push an agenda that has absolutely nothing to do with what actually is important to Christians. Let me ask you this, and answer in your own heart. What is more important to you? Creating a liturgy that celebrates someone changing gender, or organising to stop the murder
Yeah.
of 10,000 Christians in Nigeria?
Yes, yes, yes.
Are we honestly saying
Yeah.
that it is more important
Yeah.
to the Church of England to celebrate homosexuality and bless gay couples
Instead of...
than it is to free Christian slaves from northern Sudan,
Of course not.
or to speak up about the acts of anti-Christian Christophobia that are happening on a daily basis in France? What's more important? What's more important?
Yeah.
Celebrating religious pluralism or stopping the bombing of churches in Pakistan?
Yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, notice the answer of the progressive.
Okay.
Saying nice words to the homosexual community is of equal value
Aye.
than stopping pregnant women being blown up in churches.
It's not a choice, it's everything.
There you go.
It's not a choice.
If you waste your time
Yeah.
on this progressive agenda,
Okay.
you abandon your brothers and sisters who are giving their blood for Christ.
All brothers and brothers, or sisters and sisters.
Whose brothers and brothers?
Yeah.
Whose
Brothers,
sisters
my
and
sisters,
sisters?
everyone.
So when did
Humanity.
you speak up for the Christians of Pakistan?
Tell us.
So you're now asking about
No,
this.
answer my question. When did you speak up for the Christians of Pakistan?
Tell us.
Anyway,
In other words, he hasn't ever spoke up for the Christians of Pakistan.
Nothing.
But he wants you to speak up for the gay community. No,
Okay.
don't go along with your bishops. Push them to speak up for persecuted Christians around the world. That must be their priority.
What's your question? What's your question?
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Another
you
question.
asked the question yet. It's not a simple binary choice.
You interrupted her question. That's why I didn't answer your question. Learn some manners.
How convenient.
Now what is your question?
Yeah, go.
It's not a binary choice, it's everything.
What's your question?
What's your question?
My question is, how do you make your choice between speaking up for the right against gay people that Christians persecute, and then people in other countries are also being persecuted? It's not an either or.
Right, let me answer that question.
Yeah.
That's a fair question.
That's a fair question. That's a fair
He asked a
question.
fair question.
That's a fair question.
So let's hear the answer.
Go on, Bob Sila.
How do I make the choice?
Yeah, tell us.
Simple.
Alright.
Simple. If a fire is burning
Yeah.
and you only have the time to save one child
Okay.
and you can't save both,
Okay.
do you save your own child or the stranger's child?
Your own child.
You save your own child.
Yeah.
Now that is a moral choice, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
that we genuinely face. Why?
Why?
Because Christians are being butchered now, today, in Nigeria.
Okay.
They're being bombed in Pakistan. There are anti-Christian pogroms in Egypt,
All the time.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And what are our bishops doing?
Nothing.
They are valuing as more important
Yeah.
than the blood of the martyrs saying nice words to gay militants.
Wow.
The Archbishop of Canterbury has spent more time trying to placate homosexual militants, political militants, than he has speaking up for persecuted Christians. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Any other
No,
questions?
sorry. Let me just finish that answer.
Alright.
The Bible teaches
Yeah.
that we are a family,
Yeah.
that we are a body of believers,
Right.
and that when one part of the body suffers,
Yes.
we all suffer.
Yeah.
So that Pakistani family that is being harassed is your concern.
Right.
That Nigerian family that's been forced from their homes is your concern.
That's right.
And as you've seen, the gay militants don't speak up for them. So you must, because no one else will. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, don't feed the troll. Don't feed the troll. He'll feed on your energy. Don't give him energy.
All right.
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Any other questions? Yeah, wait.
So is the question about gay Christians deserving rights? Sorry, what's the question? Let's speak about gay Christians.
Okay, let's speak.
She asked,
Yeah.
why can't we speak about gay Christians?
Yes.
We do, all the time. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. Now notice the trolls, don't feed the trolls. Notice they ask a question. Right, guys, I'm going to move this way. If you want to listen to their conversation, stay here.
Answer.
I'm going to move this way.
Answer. Go, say.
I'll answer the question. You've lost the argument. No.
What about gay people?
If you want to listen to the answer to the question.
I'm listening. Tell me about your
So, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So what do we do about gay Christians? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Finally.
So the question is, and firstly, notice how the gay militant activist forces their question to the top of the agenda.
Who's gay militant activists?
Christians, learn from this. Being noisy about the persecuted church forces it to the top of the agenda.
All right.
Learn political science. So let's talk about the question about gay Christians.
Can you pause it for me?
Yeah, we'll pause while we change the battery.
All right.
Have a good Ramadan.
If you're Muslim, if you come to me, I slap him because you fasting. They do behind the camera.
Right. Yeah, he's right. Fake fasting in Ramadan. We know all about it. It's not 30 days of fasting.
Okay.
It's 30 days of feasting. They have a big breakfast and a big supper, and they just go without lunch. And then they have the audacity to try and lecture Christians about fasting. What a joke. So in answer to the question, ladies and gentlemen. Now notice, the gay militant asked a question, didn't even bother to listen to the answer. So the answer to the question,
What's the answer?
homosexual Christians have to be disciples of Christ. And as Christians, we relate to our sexuality through our faith. We don't relate to our faith through our sexuality. So gay Christians must abstain from sexual acts. That's it. And we as Christians must support them in doing so. That means that we must affirm the celibate life as something to be celebrated, as something that is noble and true and honourable and decent. And where, because they cannot have erotic love, we must provide them the other kinds of love that satiate the soul. The love of friendship, the love of family, the love of neighbourliness and community. That is how Christians deal with homosexuals. What we must not do is allow them to hijack the church and to make the church an institution of their own political ideology. And that is what has happened. A political cult has taken over branches of the body of Christ, and that political cult must be expunged, and that can only be done by an inquisition, an ecclesiastical court that examines the doctrines and casts them out of the church. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
You say that the Christian church has been corrupted and it's been usurped and Christians have been persecuted. Don't you think it's very similar to the Roman Empire when pagans used to be the majority and then this new sect called Christianity took over in very similar ways that's happening today?
Did you all hear the question? You need to move in if you can't hear. Move in. So, ladies and gentlemen, the answer to the question was essentially what is happening to the Christian church is what the Christian church did to the Roman pagan empire. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's some truth to that. As one epoch ends, it thins out. as another epoch begins, it thickens out. And since the 1700s, European civilization has been thinning out. It has been dying. And it has been dying because our leaders have fallen into idolatry. The idolatry of nationalism. The idolatry of national identity. And so as the state moved further and further away from Christianity, many Christians went along with the state because they thought of themselves as being British or Americans. We Christians must separate ourselves from all national and ethnic identities, and we must root ourselves solely and firmly in our religious identity as Christians. And only when we do that exercise will we be able to differentiate where liberal modernity begins and Christianity stops. And only when we assert, ladies and gentlemen, our Christian identity politically, economically, culturally, socially, will we be able to re-establish Christendom. And make no mistake about it, it should be our ambition to establish Christendom across Africa, across Latin America, across the North Americas, Central America, Europe, Eurasia, and the Middle East, and Australasia. Only when we have this kind of ambition will we have the ideological resources to resist liberalisation and the progressive agenda.
Which church? The Catholic
Any
Church?
other questions?
The Catholic Church or the Orthodox Church or the Protestant
Any other
Church?
questions? Let someone else ask a question first. Any other questions? Going once? No. Going twice?
He's scared.
Do you believe, Bob,
Go on.
that you should love your neighbour as yourself? Explain.
Can I give you that?
Explain what that means.
Okay. So the question was, ladies and gentlemen, and if you can't hear, you're going to have to move in, so don't project my voice. The question is, what does it mean to love your neighbour as yourself? Well, Jesus gave a story about that. The story of the Good Samaritan. The Samaritan was the man that stopped to help the wayfarer who had been abused on the road. And he took him and he placed him on his donkey and he bandaged his wounds and put over olive oil, took him to an innkeep, paid for his health care, and then returned to pay what other health care was needed. To love your neighbour means to love those who are in genuine need, regardless of their race, their nationality, their religion, their political outlook. When someone is in real need, you can help them, and you should. But there is an order to this. Christians are also called to love their brothers and sisters, and that comes first. That comes first before loving your neighbour. And Christians are also called to love their enemies, and that comes last after loving your neighbour. How does this apply in society? It means this: if I don't want my house to be burgled, I create a society, Moses, where your house is not burgled. If I don't want my family's children to be abused by a Muslim grooming gang, then I create the society in which Moses' children aren't abused by a Muslim grooming gang. If I don't want my church to be vandalized, I create a society where the mosque is not vandalized. That's what it means to love your neighbour. And that is how it applies. I hope that answers your question, Moses. That's the teachings of Jesus. You can see the truth of it, bro. I hope you accept it soon. I'll take one more question. Okay, so there we go. That's the end of that. No, we're done, Moses. We're done, Moses. Come and talk to me. Come and talk. Come, Moses. Come. You don't want to do it in front of the camera. All right. I'm going to do another talk over there. If you want to listen to my talk, come over there. If you want to listen to him, stay here.